Lidiya Yankovskaya, croeso I Opera Genedlaethol Cymru. Welcome to Welsh National Opera. Oh, you speak a bit of Welsh all of a sudden. 1 week in and you speak Welsh.
Only a few words. But
Put the rest of us to shame. It's brilliant to have you here. I would love it if you could start by talking me through how on earth someone becomes a conductor. Where does it all start?
Well, I think it's different for different people, but I grew up being immersed in music. My mother, who's not a musician, my parents were engineers, but my mother loved music and took me to performances from the youngest age, and I played piano very seriously and played violin, and I sang in very intensive children's choirs when I was a small kid. And when I was a high school student, when I was 17 years old, I was lucky to have an orchestra conductor who just decided that maybe being on the podium was something that would come naturally for me. And even though it wasn't a normal thing, we didn't have student conductors, said to me, would you like to conduct? And he was right. And it did feel right. And I continued to conduct from there.
How amazing. What do you think? It's difficult to look at yourself and to kind of reflect, really, but what do you think he saw in you that he thought, I have to convince this person that they need to step onto the podium?
I think it came organically. Because I was a pianist, I accompanied choirs. I ended up leading sectionals as a violinist regularly, and I won a concerto competition as a pianist, and it was a piano concerto from a time when there were no conductors. And I think I still have vague memories of having very strong interpretive ideas as to how my colleagues should play with me in this concerto. And the conductor actually said, well, why don't you lead some rehearsals from the piano? And I did, and it came naturally to me. And so after that, he said, you know, at our next concert, why don't you stand up and conduct? It was a movement of Dvorak's Seventh Symphony.
Amazing.
And more importantly, not only did he give me that opportunity, he gave me time. He taught me, he gave me lessons. I had no idea what I was doing, of course. He gave me a lot of rehearsal time with my peers. He created a situation where my peers were also looking forward to doing this with me, which was not a given, to create this kind of environment that was so supportive and nurturing and set me up to succeed.
Teachers like that are so rare, aren't they? How lucky.
I can think of a number of points that made what I do possible, where I had these phenomenal people who saw something in me and said, you know, you should try this, and created situations where I could learn and where I could fail and where I could succeed as a result of that.
That's so important. What advice would you give to an artist who is starting out and thinking, I might want to try that?
Yeah, I think for conducting, the most important thing before you do anything is just to have a really deep musical understanding and a strong sense that you want to say something with the music. I think for any performing artist, that's important. But with the conductor, as a conductor, I think you have to have such a deep, you have to be able to sit with the score and dig deeply into what the possibilities are. What are the different musical options? Because also every group you come in front of will have their own idea or their own kind of group think around the piece. Every individual will have maybe perform this piece many more times than you have. How can you take that incredible wealth of knowledge that's in front of you and shape it into something unified that is effective and that will move the audience in some way, or that will say something that is worth saying? There's often this stereotype that the conductor, it's this powerful position, and it does come with a lot of responsibility and power, but that the conductor, it's all about them, right? And their hair and their baton. But in reality, actually, the conductor doesn't make the sound. Almost all of our job revolves around enabling others to do great work and bringing others together to channel their energy into something unified. It has to be about bringing others together and shaping the music in some specific unified way.
And of course, when you're making opera, that's not just within the orchestra pit, that's also between the orchestra pit and the singers. And I'm guessing then, holistically, it's between the singers, the orchestra, and the audience, right? That's very complicated.
And also, frankly, the scenery and the staging as well.
Absolutely.
It's all one thing. And when that's one of the things I love about conducting opera, is that there are all of these other elements. In a way, conducting an orchestra, and I do a lot of symphonic conducting as well as operatic conducting, but in the symphonic atmosphere, it's very practical. We sit in a room together, working really intimately together and collaboratively creating this one unified whole.
To talk about the double bill, Bluebeard's Castell and Oedipus Rex, maybe you could talk a little bit about what the individual kind of identities of these pieces are, and do they work as a double bill? Do they work against each other? Is that interesting?
Well, I was so thrilled to learn that you and W&O have decided to program these pieces side by side, because Bluebeard's Castell and Oedipus Rex, in some ways, they're vastly different musically. Bluebeard is very romantic. It's very dramatically, emotionally driven. It's very intimate. It's about the relationship between these two characters. Oedipus Rex, it has this very presentational kind of quality also that comes from Greek theater and Greek tragedy. But they also have so much in common, overarching themes that run through both of them. One is this idea of fate, this idea of revealing oneself, be it publicly or privately or to oneself. The intensity of relationships in Bluebeard, it's the relationship between the two main characters, or perhaps of Bluebeard with himself.
Yes.
In Oedipus Rex, it's the relationship primarily between Oedipus and the chorus, the people of Thebes. The chorus plays this principal role.
I think rather geniusly, you came up with this beautiful idea of adding the music of Hildegard von Bingen to the evening. Could you talk to us a bit about who she is, why this music's in the piece, what does it mean?
Well, Hildegard von Bingen is this incredible character. She is a real-life person, I should say. She was a scholar, a scientist, an intellectual, a philosopher, a religious leader, a mystic, a medieval nun who also wrote a great deal, and very interestingly, so many of her writings survive, which is not always a given for writing from that period. And she was also a composer, and she wrote compositions primarily for her fellow nuns at her convent. There's a massive collection of work, including an opera, actually, that she wrote. And it's all plain chant, which is a style of singing, a style of church singing in which a larger group of voices sing in unison. And originally the idea actually came from something practical, which I love when practical things lead to great ideas. We wanted, or W&O, you and Sarah came to us and said that you wanted to find a way to involve the women's chorus more, because you have this fantastic group of women. And the Bluebeard production, already there were some plans to involve the women at the end of the show, no spoilers. And we also have them creating some sonic effects off stage, which hopefully the audience can pick out when they come to see the show. But since the women were already involved in the production, we thought, how can we weave them organically into the entire evening? And so this plain chant, we found a number of selections that all also have to do with blood. Generally it's the blood of Christ or blood in a Christian context, because these were religious texts, but that relate to some of the themes we hear in Bluebeard, where there's also a great deal of blood plays an important role. Of every time Judith opens the door, she may see beautiful flowers, but then she discovers they have blood on them, or jewelry, and it has blood on them. And also, in a way, it opens the show, because the women later will represent Bluebeard's wives. It opens the show from their perspective. In a way, at the very beginning, we see these women come on stage and they have a voice in a way that they don't during the opera itself, which I think creates a very different arc for the piece as well.
It's beautiful, and the level of mysticism, I don't know, that music cracks you open to the possibility of something darker, deeper, richer, more mysterious, which is sometimes what we come to the opera for, right? Beyond the, beyond the everyday.
And that you said mysticism, I love that because also the religious aspect of it links us to the Stravinsky. Actually, when Stravinsky was writing Oedipus Rex, it was at a time in his life where he really came back to religion after discarding it for a long time. He was Russian Orthodox primarily, but he came back to this mystical kind of also relationship with religion. And part of writing Oedipus Rex also, there are aspects of the piece that are very ceremonial or presentational in a way, and ritualistic in a way that harkens to what we may see in a religious context. So also I think the Hildegard in a way ties us into the Oedipus in the second half.
Thank you so much, Lidiya, for taking out this time from rehearsal to talk to me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, and it is such a joy to be here with the amazing singers of WNO, and this performance is not to be missed. The men's chorus in Oedipus Rex is so powerful.
They're absolutely the best. We're very, very lucky at Welsh National Opera. There's a history of male singing in Wales that I think, in a strange way, Oedipus Rex is like the living embodiment of that tradition in a very different way to what we're used to. Lidiya, diolch yn fawr.
Diolch.